Well, we really appreciate you guys coming.
Yes.
We have wanted to do this for so long. So thank you. So yeah, just tell us anything that you want to.
Okay. We're ready to go?
Yeah, we're ready.
Well, I was just going to make one comment about all the cousins. We have more in common, and it's kind of sad in a way.
Yeah.
Because every one of the Jacobs, the Hansens, and the Tullises, we lost our dads.
Yeah.
So it's kind of unusual, and yet the family thing has been my sustaining drive. Because we always had LaRue and Nancy and my mom there picking up the pieces.
Yes.
So it was really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, our father died when I was 5. But we really had it good because instead of having one father, we had 3 fathers for much of our life. We had Ray and Daryl, and then eventually we got our stepfather. So we really had it good. And we felt like we grew up in Camelot. All the family, everybody seemed to get along with everyone. LaRue was always so pleasant, and it was fun to go over to her house. And Ray was kind of mischievous.
Tease, yeah.
But
Kind of wasn't the word I was going to use.
I was telling someone earlier, he'd come in my bedroom in the morning. I'd be sound asleep. He'd reach under the covers, grab my feet, and drag me out of bed and say, "It's time to go to work." So I get dressed and we go to work.
Wow. Was he teasing or?
No, he was serious. Yeah, we go dig trenches or various things.
It wasn't always great being the oldest cousins.
Sometimes it was hauling hay.
Because you guys had to do the hard work, huh?
Yeah.
Where was the hay at?
By the Cinnadome.
Yeah, there's hay there, and then they're down to Hooper.
Yeah.
What'd you do in Hooper?
Get hay.
Yeah.
And what did you use the hay for?
Well, Grandpa had some horses, and for a while he had some cows. I remember Ray castrated the bulls and dehorned them, and I thought, whoa! I watched, I couldn't believe it.
How old were you when this was taking?
How old was what?
How old were you when this was taking place?
Couldn't drive yet, so probably 10, 12, something like that.
Okay.
What year did you get married?
Well, there was the temple and then the regular one. Now, I can actually think that.
What?
Can you think that?
64?
That's maybe, somewhere around there is probably about.
Do you know what? I knew that I was going to be asked that. I need to go with that date. I can't even remember any date.
Like 63, 64.
Oh, yeah.
Was it about the same time Mom and Dad got married? Because I used to joke that, I went to my parents' wedding.
Yeah.
But I can't.
Yeah, we were young. Having to go down late at night to feed the horses. That was so scary to me.
Oh,
We'd
it
walk
was
down
really
this
scary.
dirt road past all these big trees.
I used to cry.
The weeds were about as tall as we were. And I'd seen the movie Darby O'Gill and Little People. And I was terrified that a banshee horses.
So are you talking about the horses that was down in the field, or
Yeah.
the field just now, and
Yeah, remember the old barn and.
the barn, and you had to go and feed them?
Had to feed them, yeah.
Well, and the reason we had to do it late at night sometimes because we forgot. And was to go down at night.
Go together, or did you go single?
We'd often go together.
Yeah.
But there was one time that Grandpa drove us down to feed the horses. It was dark, and we fed the horses and got back in his Cadillac and started driving out, screaming coming from the railroad tracks. And he stopped the car. He got out and told us, stay in the car and keep the doors locked. And he disappeared into the dark, into the tall weeds. And after a couple of minutes, the screaming stopped. And then about 10, 15 minutes later, Grandpa comes back through, got a man and lady behind him. And he told Randy and I to get in the front seat, and he put this couple in the back seat, and we drove them down to the bishop's house. The lady was trying to commit suicide on the tracks. But I thought that was pretty brave of him to hear the screaming and go out in the middle of the night and.
Wow.
And then, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's amazing how much, what's the word I'm looking for, bravery and class Ray, Daryl, and Grandpa had. And they cared about people. That was the big thing in my life. I always knew I could trust them.
We had a checker for one of the movies at the drive-in. The film companies hired him to come watch us and make sure that we didn't cheat on selling tickets. And he'd stand in the ticket office and watch what we were doing. And he commented one night, he says, "Boy, your family's all so big and strong. Nobody could cause any trouble here."
Yeah.
The ground and Daryl was, and Ray. Ray wasn't too tall, but boy, was he strong.
The man was gutless. He was just so brave and
I once had this job corpsman. I think he must have been 6'5". That's what it looked like to me. But he had already broke one crutch over my friend's shoulder, and my friends all run off to get Ray. And the guy had another crutch and was chasing me around the ticket office. And all these cars were lined up waiting to get in, and I was the ticket office guy. And
Being chased.
I'm being chased with this crutch. And Ray come out, and he walked up to the guy and told him what was what, and that guy backed down. And about this difference in height, the other guy's about this much taller than Ray. And I says, after he left, I says, "Ray, how did you dare confront that guy?" He says, "He was drunk. I could have taken him."
So if we're going to talk about Ray's bravery, and I think I finally told LaRue about this, but there was one night in the snack bar, these two drunks got into a fight. And they started working their way from where I don't know if you know where the pinball machines and stuff were. They fought from that area in through the snack bar and finally got into the kitchen. And one of them saw a knife sitting there and grabbed it and was.
This is a big butcher knife.
It was a big butcher knife. And Ray jumped in between him and the other guy and took the knife away. That's your dad or your uncle or whoever.
That's so cool.
Did I ever tell you that?
I think he told me, I forgot.
I don't know if I told LaRue.
And they all worked together. No one was afraid everybody would do more work than the other.
Yeah. There was just,
Sometimes
yeah.
people can't work together too much, but they work.
Yeah, they're all hard workers.
That's one thought I have is our family never fought, never got in arguments, although Jana, my first wife, she was working in the snack bar, and she said, it scares me when your grandfather and Daryl gets into arguments, gets into fights. And I said, they're not fighting, they're just having a difference of opinion, and they're trying to make their opinions. They still love each other, and they're not going to be mad at each other.
So shall we go back in history on Ray a little bit?
Yeah.
Now, LaRue, you're going to have to help us out on some of this stuff because I might be full of it.
He is.
Okay. But there's an urban legend about Ray when he went on his mission when he was a young man. He went to Wyoming. And the story I've heard is he had a ball on his mission. He went fishing, hunting, horseback riding.
I heard skiing.
And skiing. Yeah, I hadn't heard that one, but
Had his own car. There you go.
so most of us later probably never even dreamed of doing something, but he inspired me to have fun on my mission.
Yeah, Randy did have fun.
I did have some
He took
fun.
Ray's advice.
I got accused one time. I was the district leader down in a little town in the Hill of the Boot, and I had some zone leaders in our district, and they had a car. So on P days, we'd leave the zone, and you weren't supposed to do that.
No.
And so the mission president came down once. And he says, he says, I hear you guys have been seeing the countryside down here. I says, yes, sir. You don't lie to the mission president. And he says, you're doing a pretty good job of baptizing down here. Just don't break any of the moral rules. So Ray was an inspiration.
That's what Ray told me when I went on my mission. He says, good missionaries have a good time, so enjoy yourself while you're on your mission.
Yeah. Another thing that I heard about Ray, and LaRue, you'll have to, maybe you've heard this, but have you ever heard the expression, somebody's acting up and they go, well, who put the burr under your saddle? Ray put a burr under his brother's saddle. And he
You
got thrown.
know that story?
Had you ever heard that?
All right.
You know that's true.
Under Evans?
Under
Evans.
Yeah.
when they were younger, he actually put a.
For the younger folks here,
So,
Did he really do that?
explain a burr.
Well, you know, like a sticker burr. You know, they're brown and.
yeah.
But anyway,
So
that's
it makes you sit on the saddle and it hurts the horse.
It hurts the horse.
So it
It
starts
goes-
fucking trying to get you off.
yeah. So is Evan still around?
He is.
Yes.
Yeah, ask him because I'd like to hear this because that's the one of the myths that we had.
Hand me my phone. I'll text Evan now.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of doing things like that, I remember when Evan, his first time water skiing, Ray got him up, and then Ray just gave the boat full throttle. And the boat we had fins on the side so you could turn really sharp. And he got going as fast as he could and then put it in a tight turn. Old Evan was out there just going over the waves, just hanging on for dear life. And pretty soon all you saw was arms and legs as Evan's tumbling across the water. And Ray just laughed.
Big tease, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, since you're talking a little bit about water skiing, tell them about the theater party.
Yeah, we had a theater party at Pineview, and Ray came late. He was dressed in a suit. I can't remember where he had been, but he decided to want to go water skiing. And so I was driving the boat. He got the rope in front of him on the beach. He took his shoes off, got one ski on.
He had his suit still on. He just rolled up his pant legs.
And he says, hit it. So I hit it, and he takes off wearing a suit, white shirt, tie,
And didn't get wet.
and skied for quite a while. I put the handle in his mouth and
like
pulled his
this.
hands out. And
He wasn't a show off.
And eventually, he pointed to go back to shore, and so I headed back to shore. But I kind of turned too soon, and he let go of the rope. He let go of the rope, and he didn't make it to shore.
And he's shaking his fists the whole time he was sinking in the water. Because Ray was a good water skier. And he's the one that taught all of us how to water ski.
Really?
Yeah.
He taught us. Well, he tried to teach us how to water ski on Hepkin Lake.
Oh, yeah.
It was so cold, the water.
Oh.
And we didn't have a water skiing boat, so we stopped somewhere around Blackfoot or someplace like that.
You were with us,
You were
weren't you,
with us.
Blue? I think.
And we picked up
A big engine.
big motor, 75 horsepower or something like that, and we put it on the back of this little fishing boat. And so the nose of the fishing boat went like this, and so we would all ride in the passenger would ride in the front of the boat to keep the nose down. And
then we got, 2 2x4s so that he could sit up a little bit and steer it.
well,
It worked.
I remember LaRue steering. She had the board. She was steering, and she got kind of close to the shore, and there was a tree stump just below the water level. And we went over that tree stump, and it flipped the motor up, broke that board over LaRue's legs. She had great big black bruises on her legs. So I was amazed she survived that.
Oh, yeah.
But
I have not heard that story.
so we tried to learn how to water ski behind a fishing boat.
Now, Brianne tried it. I jumped in the water and it was too cold because what was it, like June, wasn't it, that we did that? And that water's cold in June because it's coming out of the mountains. And I go, I can't breathe. So I didn't learn how to water ski till we actually got that little red boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Pineview?
Pineview. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ray would take us skiing all the time. There was times when he took us skiing 3 times in 1 week. And I think that happened quite often.
Snow skiing.
No, he'd take us snow skiing too. The water skiing in the summer, and then snow skiing in the winter. He taught Randy and I how to snow ski on the face of Wildcat.
Yeah, that was our first.
Terrified me.
Oh my gosh. Did you have a boat? Did Dad have
we all shared the same boat.
Yeah, Grandpa bought the boat.
Grandpa's?
Yeah.
I remember that.
So that's where you learned it was from Grandpa's. Yeah, Grandpa's boat.
Yeah, it was the first one was like this red boat. That's the one with the fins on the side that could turn sharp.
Yeah.
And then later he bought a big long boat that even had a toilet.
Turquoise.
Yeah, the turquoise one that
Yeah, it's really good.
even had a toilet in the thing. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Wow.
first time I water skied behind the big boat, I'd always jump over the wakes as I was going back and forth. And I went to jump over that wake. I got airborne, and I lost my balance in the air and come down face first into the water. Oh. So I was more careful with the wakes on that big boat after that.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh.
But yeah.
Well, if you want some history of why your dad was the way he is, and you're going to have to, some of the stuff I think you know about, maybe. But the story's told that you guys were visiting Martha and Ren down in, was it Mayfield?
Yeah.
And Ray was in the shower, and his mom comes in with a bucket of ice water.
That sounds like her.
Yeah, that's...
And throws it over him.
Yeah.
So that's that. I mean, he got it not from Ren.
Yeah, he got it from Martha.
He got it from Martha.
Yeah, I can totally see.
I can remember going at it with Martha. She would just tease the crap out of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did everybody?
Yeah.
She was so fun.
Yeah, we talked about Ray's strength a little earlier. With our tree house, it was about a 10-foot climb up the rope to get into the tree house, and that was always so hard for me. But when they built the center, the domes come up like this, and there's kind of a little donut thing right at the top. They had forgot to paint the underside of that donut thing. And so they drilled a hole down through the top, dropped a rope down through there. Ray put a paintbrush in his mouth and tied the paint bucket to his belt, and he climbed up that rope, times higher than our treehouse rope, and climbed up and then held on with one hand and painted the bottom. I can't imagine.
Pulling his body weight with one hand.
Yeah, after climbing up that, I can't imagine doing it. I was on my mission when this happened, but I was told about that, and I just couldn't imagine anybody climbing that high on a rope. But
Underneath it if he fell.
no. He was so strong, but I never ever saw him exercise, and I never saw him go to the gym. I don't know how he was so strong.
He just did all that stuff, I guess.
Yeah, he's just always doing hard work.
So on that rope, he just climbed up?
Yeah,
There was no,
nothing pulling him up. No.
seat or nothing?
No, just climbed up the rope.
Yeah,
I
that's
didn't know that story.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah. Going back to Hepton Lake again, with that little fishing boat, we were out fishing one time, and on the way back, we came across like a little deer, a doe, that was swimming across the lake. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
dough.
Okay. And Ray started, and it was trying to get to the shore, and so Ray kept on turning it around, and make it kept turning back, and then they'd go and make him turn back again. And by the time that poor little thing got to the shoreline, he couldn't even get up the bank.
Yeah, it got to the shore, and its legs were just wobbling. It stood there for the longest time, just wobbling.
So it was funny, but it was pretty cruel. Well, did you guys know that we got picketed at the theaters?
This is the story you told me during the summer, and you got to tell it to these guys.
Well, we got picketed for quite some time. In fact, I think it was almost 2 years, wasn't it?
2 years,
Brianna?
yeah, by the AFL-CIO.
Because it was the projectionists union. The fact that we hired friends and relatives to run our projectors. And so they picketed us. And what was kind of interesting was I'd be working the box office during that time, and I'd have people come in and go, well, we didn't really want to see the movie, but we hate the union, so we're coming to your movie.
So it didn't hurt our business.
Ray loved that big Cadillac of his. And Daryl had one too. And Grandpa did too. They all had these big Cadillacs.
And Grandpa gave Mom his used Cadillac, so everybody drove Cadillacs.
Yeah. and Ray was notorious from coming up from the Cinedome. He'd see how close he could get to the picketers without killing them.
God.
I mean, I swear sometimes it was maybe 6 inches.
Did people jump, or what did they do?
Well, what could they do? They're actually trespassing most of the time.
Yeah.
In fact, because of that, do you want to tell the story about Grandpa?
Yeah, Grandpa punched out the picketers one night. They were getting in the way of traffic coming in, and so Grandpa called the police, and Wes Woolsey, the police chief, came up, and they were out in front of the ticket offices, and Grandpa was telling Woolsey about these guys blocking traffic, and the guy called Grandpa a liar, so Grandpa just decked him. And and Wes Woolsey looked at the guy on the ground. He says, "You deserve that." But the guy filed charges against Grandpa and took him to court. And the judge fined Grandpa $25 for assault. And Grandpa came out of court and says, "Hell, is that cheap? I would have hit him again."
He was a boxer.
Yeah, Grandpa was a boxer.
Yeah. In his younger days, he was a boxer.
I know this is off topic a little bit, but didn't Grandma tell us a story one time where the alarm went off and he came up swinging
Yeah, and he hit right.
and he hit her? Yeah.
Didn't know what he was doing.
So we're kind of an unusual family a little bit.
I got a story about his fighting. When he was just a young kid, he'd gone to town with his dad on a buckboard, and they parked the buckboard outside of some business, and his dad went in and left Grandpa on the board, and the town bully come along. He was challenging Grandpa to a fight. So Grandpa jumped down off the buckboard and beat up the bully.
How old were they?
Early teens or younger, I'm not sure.
Oh gosh. So when did he start boxing? How old was he?
I don't know, he was younger, and when he hit Mother in the face, he was married at that time, but he was
Probably in his 20s?
boxing, but they said that he would never make a great boxer because he couldn't get mad enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, I remember he went and bought a horse in California and rode it back to Gunlock all by himself. Old.
California to Gunlock?
At 14.
At 14.
What was the purpose?
He bought a horse.
He went to California and bought a horse and rode it home.
I mean, I have a hard time driving my car that.
He's a change.
And then I heard that when he was 16, he got a contract to build a bridge. And so he built a bridge down in the Gunlock area
How
somewhere.
did he know at that age how to do this?
I don't know. He was a pretty smart guy.
I don't know, because he never did go to school
Yeah.
past the 3rd grade.
At
Built all
16.
these homes and so forth. So
He helped build Ogden High.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
what?
Grandpa helped build Ogden High.
So did they make their own plans, like the Cinedome 7? Did they draw the plans and everything?
Grandpa drew the plans for the Cinedome on a piece of plywood at the hobby shop. Yeah.
Are you serious?
And then they had to go have a real architect make
Did
it.
they build a hobby shop?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did. And that's still standing.
I
but
know, still there.
That was quite a building.
I love going there. Getting art projects. Didn't we just love going over there and
Yeah.
see what Lorraine would let us take?
The stairs up into that secret room.
Oh, yeah.
The two-way mirror.
You look down and, yeah,
Yes, that was so fun.
at the hobby shop.
Coffee shop, and in the back of the store, you could go up the stairs, it went way up, and then you could look out at the secret window. And,
See the customers down below, what they were doing.
yeah, that was
And I knew Ray and Lloyd before I knew that I knew them, because my mother sent me over to the hobby shop regularly. Every Relief Society in Utah, or at least in this area, would buy things from the hobby shop and make the grape lamps.
Yeah, that was really
Many hours over there buying things for my mother. And we found out later that my sister was a dancing partner for...
She was in my dance class. We were up at the cabin with these guys, and her sister came up, and we started talking, and she goes, "Well, I took a dancing license from this lady." Blah, blah. I said, my phone out, and I looked up this picture, and I says, "Are you in this picture?" And she pointed to her picture. So it's a kind of a small world.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool. Wow.
I had a couple of thoughts going through my mind. When I was quite young, I was still young enough that Randy and I were still picking up garbage on the theater field.
And rocks.
And
Pick up rocks.
Yeah, we made $1 a day.
Grandpa always had
It's a
us
pretty good
picking up
deal.
rocks. We were experts at picking up rocks.
How many hours did you guys normally pick up?
Papers, summer, that could take us 4 hours.
Yeah.
4 hours for $1. Wow.
For $1, yeah.
Yeah, but back in the 50s, and
Good.
that wasn't bad money.
Well, we had money to go up to the store and buy comic books and stuff like that. We'd ride our bikes up to the grocery store and buy comic books. But so I was young enough that I was still picking up garbage, and I saw some sneak-ins at the back of the theater, sitting by a speaker pole watching the movie. So I went in the snack bar and told Ray, "Hey, there's some sneak-ins back at the back of the theater," and he says, "Go get them." And he says, "Yeah, go get them." I said, "Okay." So I went out of the snack bar, went up to the ticket office so I could go down the back of the field and kind of sneak up on them. And they saw me before I got to them, and they all jumped up and took off running, and so I took off running after them. And before they put the chain link fence around the theater, there's an old broken down barbed wire fence. There's all the barbed wires on the ground, and the biggest one tripped in the barbed wire. And but he got out before I got to him, and so I carefully run through the barbed wire and kept after him. And finally, I caught up with him down where the Cenodome would eventually be, running down this dirt road, and he was running out of steam. And I caught up with him, grabbed his shoulder, and threw him to the ground. And when he got up, I had a big flashlight, one of those 6-volt flashlights. Yeah. And when he got up, I kept it flashed in his eyes so he couldn't see how big I was. And then I talked in a deep voice, says, "Okay," or to the snack bar.
Ray was pretty proud of him.
So we got him back up to the snack bar, and we walked into the snack bar, and Ray was there, and I says, "Ray, this is the only one I could get. The others got away." And Ray looked at the guy. He had dirt from head to toe. His face was all covered with dirt, and bleeding, and
yeah, Ray's sitting there going, "Yeah,
taller than me."
That's my nephew.
And finally the kid left, and Ray looked at me and says, "Way to go." I didn't really beat him up. It's just circumstances.
You far away. You know, you went after him.
He wasn't going to get away.
Catching sneak-ins was a big thing when we were growing up. Ray and Daryl would let us get. We could charge them each person we caught. We charged them like what, $5, something like that. It's kind of like double the cost. And if they complain, we say, "Well, you can pay a trespassing fine, and that's going to be $40." But then Ray and Daryl let us keep the money, so that we made some extra. And so all the Browns teammates on the football team wanted to come do it. Yeah. So we got quite the crew going sometimes. Yeah. And then after the Cenodome was built, the ladies would call up because people would load their trunks up down at the Cenodome. They didn't realize the connection.
Oh my gosh.
And so there's a blue Oldsmobile coming up, So we'd let them pull in, and then we'd follow them out, and as they opened the trunk, we said, "Now you're going to pay for."
Oh my gosh.
And double rate.
Yeah, double rate.
Ray always believed in getting things done quick. One time there was this pipe that came out of the ground right next to the snack bar with one of those handles that you have for a faucet, and it was leaking. The pipe was leaking somewhere. The ground was getting wet. He started digging with a shovel and decided that this is taking too long, so he went and got the tractor with the backhoe and tried to dig with that. He ripped the pipes and everything out of the ground. So then it was really a major repair job. Another time, when we converted from the old to the xenon lamp bulbs, they cost about $1,500 a bulb. Today they probably cost maybe $3,000 or more. But you had to be really careful with them. They come in this protective case, and you had to wear a face protection and protective clothing. Really easy. If you touch them, you could weaken the crystals in the.
And it's just like a light bulb.
It's just a light bulb. Yeah, it was kind of long. It had metal ends, and it come up and then into a bulb. And I guess xenon gas is that. Maybe that's why they called it that. But anyway, you had to be really careful with them. And one day I walked up in the projection room upstairs. At the drive-in, they moved the projection room up on top of the snack bar, and I walked up there, and Ray was putting one of those xenon lamp bulbs in the projector, and he had a hammer. It wasn't fitting good. And he was, "Ray, I'll wait for you downstairs." No, he got it in.
Oh God.
He was kind of fearless.
Another great memory that I have of Ray was, we had the horse, And during the wintertime, I think it was like for two winters, Ray and I would go on these weekend horse rides. And we usually ended up down at Anna Days.
Okay.
So, but anyway, that was really kind of fun. But one particular time, we're coming home, this dirt road way away from the barn, and Ray goes, well, let's race back to the barn. And I'm kind of stupid anyway, so I said, okay. And now if you know horses, if you take off at a dead run back to the barn, it's going to
get to the barn.
They're going to get to that barn as fast as they can. Stuff there.
Yeah.
And so we're at the fastest I've ever been on a horse. And Ray, what?
Was it bareback?
No, fortunately, but
Okay.
If it would have been, I would have been dead probably today. But so we're racing, and Ray comes up alongside me and rips my reins away, takes the bridle right off the horse, and all I can do. Neck. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, I'm heading for that barn. Now, the barn had burned down, and so they had built, Grandpa had built a stadium for their Roy Rhythm Riders. It was a young youth posse. Mm-hmm. But he had turned that grandstand there into a little barn, which was about head high. Oh, no. And we're at a dead run, and I'm thinking, my head's going to get knocked off. I mean, so I'm ducked down, holding on, and somehow I didn't fall off the horse. But that's just kind of like Ray.
Scary.
He was laughing.
I'm surprised you guys survived. You guys did?
Yeah, you really.
But he was fun. Tell him about. We were going up to Hepkin Lake one time, and remember his Buick convertible.
Right.
We were heading up. We're going through Idaho. We come to this field, and there's big piles of green stuff in the field, and guys are up on top with pitchforks, and Ray says, "Those are peas." And all of a sudden, he slams on the brakes and puts the car in reverse. We're on the highway. He goes flying down the highway backwards. He turns into that field, drives up to the stack of peas, and he goes, "Dos," because there's a Spanish guy up on top. And the guy says, "Dos? There?" Ray goes, "Yeah." So he takes a pitchfork, and Randy and I are sitting. Puts 2 pitchforks loads of peas on top of Randy and me.
Oh my gosh!
And we're eating peas and throwing the pods all the way up to Hepkin Lake. I mean, he was just fun. I mean, he did some really funny things, but he was fun.
Oh my gosh!
He had a wonderful smile. Enjoying life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, but he did have that mischievous side. When I first got married to Candy, we were in the ceiling room of the Salt Lake Temple, and waiting for to get this thing solemnized. And your dad's sitting there pointing at the window, going, "You can get out."
Ceiling room telling you to back out.
Yeah. He said, "If you want out, there's the window."
But very generous. My brother-in-law was getting married, and so we asked Ray if he would fly them up to Jackson Hole for their honeymoon. And he said sure, so Jana and I and the new bride and groom, he flew us up to Jackson Hole.
Who was your brother-in-law?
Us.
Okay.
And anyway, when we got close to Jackson, there's the Tetons there, and he flies around the Tetons, but Ray, he was a daredevil on the ground, and I understand at one time in his life he was a daredevil in the air too, but once he got that plane, all of a sudden he was careful in the air. So he
Very safe.
stayed out away from the peaks a little bit. But when we got to the runway, there was a heavy crosswind, and he is almost landing sideways. And I thought, we're going to be killed. But he safely got us on the ground.
Wow. Smart.
But tell him about Daryl flying back.
Daryl wasn't so careful in the air. Daryl flew us home, and Daryl took us really close to the peaks. We were flying around the peaks, and I think, aren't there downdrafts around peaks? But,
Freak out.
When I finally got my driver's license, Ray and Daryl asked me to Yellowstone because we kept a car, that old Meteor, the blue
Oldsmobile?
Yeah, well, no,
Mercury meter,
Mercury.
which is a Ford.
Yeah, I guess that is a Ford. And they left it parked at the airport. But you can't leave it there in the winter because the snow gets 10 feet deep, you know. And so they were going to fly me up. I said, well, can I take a friend? And so I called, some of you might even know the Hawes, Greg Hawes.
Oh, his mom was my,
Yeah, she was my first grade teacher too. And so I asked him, and he said, sure. And so we get on the plane, and they go, let's. And I said, well, can we do the scenic route? And so they started flying over the Tetons, and we're later. But we get to the Tetons, and and come to find out, my friend Greg Hawes had just had the biggest waffle breakfast that he had ever had in his life. and we filled every bag, and we even had to take the Kleenex out of the Kleenex boxes because they're lined with plastic. And finally I can remember Ray turning around and going, waffles. So I was kind of mad at Greg because now we had to beeline it to the airport.
right.
To get that meteor up to the cabin, Ray and I drove it up to the cabin. I could drive then, so he drove the whole way. But and then Daryl flew up with the plane to get us, and then Daryl was flying us back, and Daryl was doing the flying, and I was feeling sick. I hadn't eaten all day, and so I laid back and turned all the air vents on me, and that loosened my. And as we left the mountains, all of a sudden the plane dropped. And I floated up in the air, but my seatbelt was kind of holding me from going too high. But I looked up, and Daryl was the pilot, and he was on the ceiling of the plane. He hadn't put a seatbelt on.
Oh my God.
So I think Ray was keeping us going.
Oh my God.
Ray was just really skilled at anything he tried. He seemed to do it well. You'd think he was being reckless, but he really wasn't. He was a pretty dang good pilot too.
Yeah, he was a good pilot. With snowmobiles, he bought a super fast snowmobile, and he entered a race. And he can't race. He's just got this snowmobile, but he was just all out, full blast, all the time. Going around the curves, he had to be hanging way out on the side to keep the snowmobile from sliding off the track. And I think he won the race. And I thought, wow!
Well, Val, you won that race, didn't you? Okay.
Me in that race, I was 8 years old. I've never been in a race before, but I understood that the Polaris we had, he had souped it up more than any other person's, and all I knew was I just needed to make Dad proud of me. And so I went around, and it was high banked, and I went around and I won. It was a heat that was for 8 to 12-year-olds, and I won. I'd never been in a race, and not any sense. But the scariest part was not racing, but where's my dad when I was done? I couldn't find him.
Oh, no.
Just in the middle,
Now you guys might find this kind of surprising, but when I was little, I had a bad mouth. And I cussed quite a bit.
I was partly responsible.
And Brianna would beat me up when I cussed. So
he'd swear at me, and I'd punch him out.
And he'd punch me, and I'd cuss it. Until finally, I don't know, how old were we when this happened? Anyway, finally one day I fought back. And we got in a pretty good fight.
So he didn't have to swear anymore, and I didn't hit him anymore.
But this fight, we're just going really at it, and Mom's screaming, going, "Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!" And we're fighting. And remember our yellow house there had that hedge out in front on the front porch, and we go finding out the front door and tumbling over that hedge. And Ray's over in his driveway, leaning against his car, watching us. Laughing away, Mom's screaming, and your dad's laughing. And she's and he's just laughing at it. She's enjoying the show. And finally, Brianna, I think we kind of looked and saw both of them, and the juxtaposition made us stop and laugh.
Oh, that's funny.
Laura, do you remember the demo dome?
A little bit.
Yeah, Ray bought a car to compete in the demolition derby,
Right.
but he never competed. Do you remember why?
His mother didn't want him to.
She stole the keys.
She stole the keys?
Yeah.
Sounds like Martha.
How often was Martha down?
Oh, periodically, yeah. I can just remember Martha just teasing me like crazy.
She's a tease too.
Yeah,
Okay, so you guys knew her pretty well then.
yeah. Ren was this stoic, silent guy, you know.
Silent, yeah.
But he's really fun to be around.
There are several robberies at the theaters with guns. Randy was involved with one. One was at the drive-in, and the guy stole the money, gunpoint, jumped in his car and took off after him with his headlights off. Ray left his headlights off, so the guy went and knew he was following him. And Ray followed him to his house and called the police, and the guy was arrested, and the guy ended up committing suicide in jail. But Ray wasn't going to let the guy get away.
Heard the story of the Cinedome robbery, correct?
Just from you during the summer.
Was there more than one?
No, well that was a good enough one.
Yeah.
All right. So this was before we actually had police go with us to make night deposits.
To do that.
Well, we had to go make night deposits to keep the money because we didn't want to keep it in the Cinedome or in our houses or anything.
So you guys hired the police
Well, after this
holdup.
for this.
yeah, we hadn't done that before.
How much money are we talking about? Because we don't know what you're, how much.
Oh, probably $5,000 to $10,000.
No, more than that. Sometimes like that night, 15 to 20. Because we'd had a couple of it was a big shows. You know, the Cinedome really did well
The
sometimes.
Star Wars one?
Could have been. I'm not even sure what
I can't
the movies
remember
were.
which movie.
But it had to be something like those though, because it was after Ray had passed away and Daryl. So that's why Brianna and I were doing that. And so I went walking out with the change cans. There was 2 big cans full of change.
One for the drive-in, one for the Cinedome.
Cinedome. And so I'm going out to my car, and I set him down and started opening up my trunk, and this guy comes walking up, and he pulls back his coat, and he goes, "Sorry I have to do this." And I was kind of sorry too. But so I jumped him and tried to keep the gun in the holster. But then I realized, he's probably about as big as Stan. I thought, I'm not going to win this one. And so I put my shoulder down, kind of gave him a shove, and took off in towards the Cinedome, only to find that his on everybody else. Inside. And so I grabbed, I think it was like Ruth and somebody else, and just dragged them into the back room. And one of the ushers ran up the stairs, and he was scared, but he did yell at the projections.
He yelled at the projections to call the police to hold up. And then he went in the storage room that this usher, the ladder to the roof.
He was so scared.
Opened the trap door, got on the roof, went over to the dome, got the rope, pulled himself up to the top of the dome, and then pulled the rope up after him. So anyway, the guy that held me up, I think what happened was he took the money cans out to a getaway car and then went back in. His girlfriend out. And in the meantime, 211 in progress is a big deal, especially when they said it's the Cinedome 70. So every cop in the county was converging on this place. And so I imagine what happened was the guy in the car thought, I'm out of here. And he left his and he took off with the change cans. 2 friends got arrested.
Well, there's an epilogue or something to that.
Yeah.
So he takes off, but they get caught down in the bottom of down by the river, wasn't it? There's a trailer court or something. They found him, and they caught them too. And so getting ready for court, and they're prepping me, and so I get into court, and they go, well, is the person that pulled the gun on you here in the courtroom today? And I did my Perry Mason thing. I said, yes, it's the defendant sitting at the table over here. And then another epilogue was apparently the girl and this other guy came in, and we think that he was probably the guy that was driving the car, tried coming back to the movie about a month later or so. And Wes Woolsey, the chief of police, was there, and he goes, "Are you serious?" He says, "Get out of here before I arrest you again."
That reminds me of Ray throwing the judge out of the center.
Oh, LaRue was involved in that.
Wait. Quite a bit.
Quite a bit. Because he'd go up there and race.
It's a 5-hour drive for us. How long did it fly?
Oh, quick. It was quick
An hour?
flight. What, an hour and a half, maybe, at most.
Single engine?
What's that?
The single engine, yeah. It was a little. It was a Bonanza, Beechcraft Bonanza. He let me fly it one time. that was kind of funny because I'm taking off, and it's the Bonanza is almost like power steering, and I started dipping the wings, and I think our call sign was 5'9". He goes, "Geez, 5'9", Victor, you almost hit your wing on the runway," and Ray pulls the stuff back and never let me fly again.
You guys,
hard
tell
jump
me what that meant.
Oh,
What did that mean?
the Bonanza only had one yoke, so you had back and forth.
Two skates, but one steering wheel.
One steering. So I had it on my side, and Ray goes, "Jeez." That was my one and only time flying an airplane.
Okay, what story were you going to say when we paused you? What were you going to say? The judge.
Oh, the judge.
Oh, that was funny.
Yeah. One time, LaRue had the keys to the Cinedome,
Right.
and she was on jury duty, and so she was in court with the keys to the Cinedome, and it was time to open.
And all the money cans were in her trunk, weren't they?
Probably
The change
I don't
cans or
remember.
something.
But Ray went into the back of the court, motioned to LaRue that he needed the keys, and Judge Browning told him to sit down and stop disturbing things.
Right.
And so they had to wait till the court was over to get the keys. But sometime later, Judge Browning come to the Cinedome for a movie, and Ray threw him out.
He says, "I'm the judge here." Yeah.
And then the next day, a couple of police cars pull up to the Cinedome, and we thought, uh-oh. And I think Ray was there.
Ray was there.
And they just wanted to see, wanted to know who it was that threw Judge Browning out of the Cinedome. And Ray says, "Job."
We hate that guy. No, didn't Judge Brown actually tell Ray to go stand in the corner or something?
Well, yeah, he wouldn't let him out of the courtroom. So.
Yeah.
So he had to stay there the whole time.
Yeah.
I sit in the corner.
He told I heard that the judge told him to go sit down, think about what you're doing, and then when the judge, he says, "I want you to sit there and think about what you're
Oh,
doing."
really? I didn't hear that part.
Or something.
Your dad was not boring.
Okay, I got a story of when went hunting with Ray. We were with shotguns, but we come to a place where somebody had done a lot of shooting with shotguns, and there's all these shotgun shells on the ground. And so Ray had his .22 pistol with him, and he told us to throw the shotgun shells, one at a time in the air, and he'd shoot them in the air with his pistol. And sometimes he'd get them a couple of times while they were in the air. That before. I thought that was incredible.
I haven't heard that. That's cool.
He was a good shot. I guess in Mayfield he did a lot of shooting.
I have a great memory of LaRue one time. Before you ever built that extra room on your house, the family room.
Right.
Pauline one time just jumping away, and I decided I was going to try a back layout flip.
Oh.
And LaRue's at the kitchen window there doing the dishes and watching me. And I don't know if you remember this, but I didn't know how to do this. So I hit it, and I went flying past the window, and I just saw this horrified look on LaRue's face going, and I didn't die.
Where did you land?
Just, I kind of hit the springs and fell on the grass, but the look on her face was priceless. Because all she saw her nephew flying across the window,
Well, while we're talking about LaRue, I remember the time she got Mom drunk.
What happened?
She wasn't really drunk, but she had all the symptoms of being drunk. My mom.
Yeah, you did this, by the way.
You did this.
Oh, we don't know this story.
We don't know this.
She had a really severe headache, and she had taken several aspirin or Excedrin or something. I can't remember what she took. But then she went over to LaRue. She was always going over to LaRue's to visit with LaRue, but she went over there, and LaRue says, "I've got something that's really good that'll get rid of your headache." So LaRue gave Mom that medicine, and it worked. Mom was so happy. Home and couldn't walk a straight line. She come in the front door just laughing. She fell into the wall and laughed some more.
What did you say to her?
Do you remember that at all?
Do you remember what it was?
No,
Was it Grandpa's Jack Daniels?
it could have been my dad's drink. Alcohol.
Oh, it was alcohol you gave her. I thought it was medicine.
He was defending you, saying it was some sort of medicine.
It was definitely medicine.
Yeah, when Grandpa was staying with us, there was a bottle of Jack Daniels in the bottom drawer at the top of the stairs for his heart.
Well, he'd shock us sometimes because we'd be picking up trash, and once in a while we'd find like an unopened bottle of like vodka or something, and Grandpa would shock us by popping the top and taking a drink. And we thought, you know,
When
he's going to go to hell.
when we were really young, they gave Grandpa and Grandma a bottle of wine. And so they were tasting the wine, and they let Randy and me taste it too.
You mean I actually did try alcohol once?
Yeah,
I
they
did.
did.
Okay.
Really warm.
Oh, I know, when we went to Knife and Fork Club, some dinner, black tie and so forth, all the people around the table, and they were pouring drinks to everyone, and they were tipping their glass cups up, but Dad didn't. My dad, he just left it there, and they poured him a drink. He drank it. He didn't worry about whatever.
Yeah.
He would tip his cup up. That's over.